My office represents people in connection with estate planning. Now, what do I mean by that? Estate planning means that you have prepared a last will and testament, otherwise known as a will. Estate planning means that you have a power of attorney. Estate planning means you have a living will. And estate planning means that you have a healthcare proxy. So if you don't have a will, then your estate, your money, your real property, your personal possessions are going to be passed on to your estate by how the law defines it. But that could mean that people who you don't want to get something. You, by preparing a will, say that here's how I want my estate to be devised, how I want my estate to be given away. I give my house to my daughter. I give my boat to my other daughter. I give cash to this charity. You define the destiny of your estate. That's the significance of a last will and testament. A power of attorney is a very important tool. God forbid you become incapacitated. If you had a power of attorney where you designated a person to be your agent, then they can do all your business. They can do banking transactions, stock transactions. They can sell property. They can do anything and everything that you could do. But unfortunately, you might be in a coma in the hospital. We had a case like that. The gentleman was in a hospital in a coma for 3 years, but prior to his accident, he gave his daughter a power of attorney, so she was able to do everything for him, and we were able to move that case forward. A living will says that in the event I am ever in a comatose state where the prospect to recovery is medically determined to be impossible, then it is my wish that I not be kept alive by technologically advanced equipment. You may want that. We had a case out in California so many years ago, I forget the name, where she was in the coma for the longest time. The mother and father wanted to keep her in the coma. The husband wanted her off. So that's what a living will says. It defines what you want your destiny to be. And then finally is a healthcare proxy. You're in the hospital, you can't make a decision, and you have a person you've designated for the healthcare proxy, and the doctor says, we could do this procedure or we could do that procedure, and the person you designated in your healthcare proxy can make that decision for you. In order to devise an estate plan, you don't have to be rich. You could have things that you would like to end up in certain people's lives. I'll give a quick example. I did a will for a gentleman one time, and he said, I leave my German helmet to my son Charles, because he was in World War II, and he had a German helmet. And in my case, I found a Tag Heuer watch one time when I was golfing with my brother, and I said that in my will, that I leave my Tag Heuer watch to my brother Jim, because he was with me at the time. So even though you're not rich, you can devise or give away those things that you consider valuable to those people who you feel should have them. The reason that an individual would prefer to have an attorney do estate planning rather than do it themselves is to ensure that it's done right. These days, you can go on LegalZoom and other platforms and, quote, do it yourself, but you might overlook something very significant that could have catastrophic consequences later on. So that's why I think it's always a good idea to make sure that you seek out legal representation for all of your estate planning wishes. The experience that I have with estate planning goes all the way back to when I first became an attorney. And I'll never forget that the first will I ever did was on an IBM Selectric. And it had a number of the keys were off. So when it was done, you could see how it was a little bit defective. I've always enjoyed estate planning. It's a lot of fun to sit down, particularly with a husband and wife, and they talk about their family, and they're rather shocked as to, some of the questions that I ask them, and it's just so comforting and enlightening and gratifying to see them come out of that experience feeling fulfilled and, feeling like they did the right thing. What my estate planning clients can expect from our consultation is for me to define the 4 things that make up the meat and potatoes of estate planning: last will and testament, healthcare proxy, power of attorney, and a living will. I define them for them in very fine detail. I give illustrations as to the significance of them. And then I ask them specific questions as to what it is they want done. And it's so gratifying for them and for me to see that in the end, they come away with a sense of, I'm so glad I did that.